says red flags don't feel like red flags when they feel like home. And I'm like, bro. Hey guys, what's up? What it do? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm Casey, and if you are new, please take 1 second, go down below, hit that subscribe button, and click that little bell button so you don't miss when I post a new video. All right, y'all, it is currently 10:43 p.m. and I just washed my hair. Why would I wait till this late to wash my hair? That's between me and God. But I do need to twist my hair. I'm gonna do a twist out because I have some stuff I have to do tomorrow and I don't want to have to worry about my hair. But with that, I also wanted to just chat with you guys. This may be my last chit chat style video on this channel.
You cannot be for real.
I'm gonna get into that in this video.
Oh my God, you for real? No, you for fake.
But yeah, while I twist my hair, I'm just gonna be chatting it up with you guys. Like, we're on FaceTime. Hey girl, hey. This might be a long one, so get comfortable, grab a snack. If you can't watch the full video right now, come back to me later and let's do this. I first need to blow dry my hair, so I'm gonna come back after I finish that and then we'll get to the talking. Do y'all think the aliens would approve? I just blow dried my hair, sectioned it out, and then I also washed my face and put on a face mask because my birthday coming up and my skin looks like trash. I'm using this Beauty Pie Super Pore Detox Purifying Clay Mask. I love using this when my skin wants to act out. Now let's get into these twists and this little chit chat. I have been loving the Bread Beauty Supply hair cream for twist outs. I've been trying a bunch of different products on my twist outs because I literally wore protective styles for like all of 2023. So I've been in my hair bag, okay? Just trying a whole bunch of stuff, especially now that I have a little bit of length. And I really like this. I feel like it gives me a really light, fluffy twist out. It doesn't really give a whole lot of definition because it is more like a cream consistency. It's actually considered a leave-in conditioning curl cream. It's not even like a defining product for real. It smells so good. All of Bread's products smell good. I might need to get the full size of this though because I love how fluffy it makes my twist outs. And that's literally the only product I'm gonna use on my hair today. So let's get it. All right, so like I said in the beginning of this video, this is probably gonna be my last chit chat style video that I post on this channel. Over the past couple months, I've really been playing around with a bunch of different things to see what like format and what style I kind of like when it comes to creating content because I literally barely created all of 2023. So I've been kind of having to literally just trial and error a lot of different things, and I've been okay with that. I've really been enjoying that process because it kind of feels like I've been given an opportunity to really refine how I want to start showing up on social media. And you guys probably saw the 2 In Her Process episodes that I posted not too long ago. And originally that was going to be the space on this channel where I did do more in-depth like stuff talking about my personal life and my spiritual journey and my other passions like human design and astrology. But I got a lot of, well, not a lot, it really, I don't know why I'm saying a lot. That's how you know you be paying attention to the wrong stuff sometimes. But I got some feedback and some of the comments were saying that they really liked my hair content and my skincare content, but they started to question me because of my beliefs and, you know, some of the things that I've been exploring in my personal life. And at first I took that to heart because I'm like, so what you're saying is you want to use me. What you're saying is you only like me because of the solutions that I can provide with hair and makeup. But then I had to check myself and I was like, well, that is what I built my platform on. That is literally why people chose to subscribe to me for so long. Now granted, I have always done like chit chat style videos on my channel even before I started adding in my own little twist with the human design and astrology stuff. And I feel like because back then it was a little bit more generalized, like I was still very much learning what I believed in and, you know, figuring out my own direction and stuff like that back then. So when I would speak, it would be I think, easier for people to resonate because it wasn't using like my own specific language, if that makes sense. It was very like general, very easy for everyone to relate to. But I'm getting older, I'm learning deeper parts of myself. I'm seeing what feels correct to me. I'm seeing, you know, what language feels right for me. I have changed so much over the years, and I feel like I'm also kind of at a peak when it comes to my identity and like the way that I see myself and the way that I want to show up in the world. And I was really excited to start sharing more of that like through my In Her Process series and stuff. Some people were suggesting that I keep them separate, and like I said, at first I took it to heart because I'm like, wow, y'all don't really like me for me. Which I know isn't 100% true. Like, I know that my personality comes out in the hair and beauty stuff too, and I also know that some of the things that I talk about, the things that I use to connect to myself, it's not going to resonate with the majority of people. And I don't want to shove that down your throats when you subscribe to me for one thing and now I'm talking about something completely different. So for my own sanity and for the comfort of all of you guys as well, and just respecting, you know, the reason why you came to me in the first place, I've decided to keep this page completely beauty. We're only going to talk beauty on this page. And that doesn't mean that you guys aren't going to get my personality, because like I said, even when I do wash day videos and reviews, like, you guys get to see Casey. It's not like it's a mask. It's just, I'm not talking about anything deep, you know? So this page, 100% beauty, hair, makeup, skincare, product reviews, educational content. You know, I love to go in depth when it comes to skincare and ingredients and stuff. So that's what we're gonna keep this page as. And then I also actually have another YouTube channel that I started almost 2 years ago now, where I started talking about my journey with human design and astrology. And so I am going to revamp that page. It actually already has 1,000 subscribers, which I didn't even know it had that many. But I'm gonna keep that as my safe space. Now granted, I know it's the internet, so like no space is really safe, for real, for real. I think that the audience that I started growing over there, they came there with the expectation of, this is the more spiritual side of Casey. This is where I'm going to get the human design and astrology stuff, and that's why I'm going to subscribe. Whereas here, you know, you guys have gotten hair, makeup, skincare for so long, it would only make sense for that to be what you expect to see here. And something that I've noticed since I have been doing a lot of trial and error with posting and stuff, it actually is very good to niche down to a certain extent, because it keeps people coming back to you for the same thing. And so I think that if I can keep this page beauty, you know, I can make sure that you guys are getting what you want. And then I also still have that completely separate page where I can just act a fool, to be honest with you. That's the real reason why I want to do this, because even when I do try to do certain chit chats and I want to say certain things, I'm like, ooh, like, let me not say that, because, you know, there might be somebody that did follow me for hair and then they see this side of me and now they hate me, you know? So it's not that I'm trying to hide from you. It's just that I want to create just different spaces for different parts of me, if that makes sense, so that I can feel safe in showing up as my full self. I can trust that the people that are there on that space are there for that version of me, and I don't have to worry about holding my breath or like being afraid that it's gonna rub people the wrong way. Now granted, like I said, no space on the internet is a safe space, so I'm still expecting to get crazy comments on my other page where I will just be talking with no filter. But again, at least it's not disrupting the platform and the audience that I've already gained a certain level of trust for in the beauty space over here. I've worked really hard to become, you know, somewhat of an authority in beauty, and not that I think that the other side of me or like my other interests are a detriment to that, but I just feel like it just makes sense to separate them, and it makes it easier for me also to streamline the type of content that I do, because I'm even going to do like, I really want to showcase human design and astrology in real life on that page. So over there is really also where you'll get more lifestyle content. I want to do like night routines and morning routines based on certain astrological transits and like certain things in my chart. Like, I really want to highlight how I use these systems in my life, and I want to be able to do it in peace. Like, I don't want people who follow me for hair or skincare to interject and, you know, you guys know what I'm trying to say. So if you are interested in that side of me, I definitely want you to join me over on that page. I actually am going to be posting over there more often than I will on this page. My goal for this page is to continue posting one time a week. That like feels really good and sustainable for me. And then I'll be going live over on that page very often. I have so many ideas for different lives I want to do. And then I'll be posting like a regular sit down video or routine style lifestyle video once a week as well. So make sure you follow me or subscribe to that page. It is linked in the description, of course. And the name of it is Casey's Haven. So there you go, Casey's Safe Space. Please don't come over there if you're closed-minded, if you're judgmental, if you have a one track mind, only one way of thinking, because one of the biggest things that I want to start doing on social media is positioning myself as a thought leader. And I want people who want to see a new way or want their mental process to be pushed a little bit. I don't want people who are rigid in their thinking. And the thing is, I'm still learning all the time, every day. So I'm not the type of person to like not hear you out. I'm definitely, you know, open to any type of constructive criticism that you have, or if you have some pocket of knowledge that I don't have myself. But when it comes to tearing me down or talking down on my way of seeing things because you only see things one way, that's not gonna fly anymore. That's not gonna fly anymore. So yeah, follow me over on Casey's Haven. I have been pulling myself up out of kind of a creative rut that I've been in because I've been focused so much on just shedding a lot of things. Not even things, the physical things are gone, but like shedding my own limiting beliefs, shedding my own bad habits and things that I was doing that was holding me back. And to pull myself out of that space and to start showing up again, it's been kind of a rocky road, but as you can see, I'm like filtering out the things that don't feel right and stepping into the things that do feel right. And every day, literally every day, I feel like I get closer and closer to what feels like it. Now don't get me wrong, y'all know I change my mind every day, so I wouldn't even be surprised if things shift again, but we're getting there. And allowing myself that grace to be able to keep shifting as I see fit feels really good and in alignment for me as well. So now that that's out the way, I want to talk a little bit about my goals and my vision for 2024. But before we even really like get into that, we kind of have to backtrack a little bit because like I mentioned earlier in this video, a lot of things have already come like full circle for me. And it's crazy because I'm pretty sure in my last In Her Process style video, oh, by the way, I don't know if In Her Process is going to continue to be a thing. It might be over on the other channel. I really don't know yet. I just know over there I'm going to be doing more vlog style and talking style videos. Will it be called In Her Process? Find out on the next episode of What Is Casey Doing. What was I about to say? Oh yeah, in the last episode of In Her Process, I literally said, yeah, pretty soon I'm going to come back to you guys and be like, this, and this has happened, and like shit's already changing. And because of the shifts that have already been happening, I've been, like I said, having a lot of full circle aha moments and like seeing why certain things happen the way they did, and also shifting my perspective on certain things too. So let's get into it. So as many of you guys know, I moved to Atlanta from Miami about a year ago. I feel like I've said that 500 times over the past couple months, but yeah, it's been a year, over a year at this point. And when I moved to Atlanta, it was so much more than just moving to a new city. It was about me finally choosing myself after putting myself on the back burner for other people for so long. And I feel like I didn't even really see it as that at the time. I just knew that I needed to leave my circumstance, and that was that. But looking back, it really has been so much about the decision to finally choose myself. And when I say choose myself, I mean choose myself in every area of my life. The biggest one, of course, being leaving the relationship I was in, because I was in an almost 4-year relationship and left that to move to Atlanta. And there were a lot of things that led to that breakup. Like, it wasn't like an overnight decision for me. But the biggest thing really was that I was holding the weight of so much, not just like emotionally and like, what's the other word? Like intimately in the relationship. I was also carrying a lot of weight and a lot of burdens financially. And I was beating myself up for that for a while because it's like, I was doing so well before this person came around. And I feel like looking back now, I really didn't see myself. I really didn't see my worth. And I also, there were certain things that happened when we first met that triggered certain wounds that I didn't even realize I had. And so I saw this post literally on Instagram Oh my God, I have to see if I can find it. It says red flags don't feel like red flags when they feel like home. And I'm like, bro, that literally explains why I ended up in so many situations that I ended up in, not just my relationship, but like work stuff too, which we'll get into that. But there's just certain things that you don't realize that you, or certain situations that you don't realize that you end up in because of your own subconscious wounding and baggage and things that you're carrying from past experiences. Some of the pain and some of the wounding that we carry, it's not even stuff that we've necessarily experienced in this lifetime. Sometimes it literally comes from our ancestors and things that have been trickling down in our lineage for years, decades, you know, generations. And the one that I really want to touch on the most is not seeing my worth, because that's like something that has gotten me in so many situations and caused me to stay in certain situations longer than I should have. And I think that it's something that a lot of people can probably relate to, and we don't even realize it. Like, I think a lot of us think that we have a certain level of self-confidence and we see ourselves in a certain way, but it doesn't reflect in our actions. It doesn't reflect in the way that we're approaching things, the way that we are not approaching things, the boundaries that we do or don't set. Like, not seeing your worth is huge. And I think that towards the end of my journey in Miami and my relationship and all that stuff, that's really when I did start to see my worth. It actually pretty much started when I discovered human design and astrology, which is why I'm so passionate about it, because I felt seen. Like, I felt like there were certain traits that I was almost like afraid to truly embody because it didn't feel, I never felt safe enough to fully express them. And so to have this little map of myself and this chart telling me like, hey, these are all the ways that you might potentially experience resistance in your life, and these are all the reasons why, and this is how you can fix it. It's like, oh, it's like, that's really when the light bulb went off for me, and I was like, okay, I gotta start changing some shit. And so I'm forever grateful for that, and that's why I'm really passionate about sharing it with other people. But yeah, so with the relationship, I feel like I didn't see myself. I feel like I've constantly felt like I had to prove myself, and I had to almost live up to an expectation that was never going to be met, because he was also attracted to me for reasons that like weren't right. Not that weren't right, but like I was filling voids in him that were toxic, and he was filling voids in me that were toxic. And like I said, sometimes when you're just used to living a certain way, you're used to seeing yourself a certain way, you don't realize that you are bypassing certain red flags because they feel safe. It's what you're used to. In my previous In Her Process video, I shared a clip of when my mom called me because my family thought that I was lost because I had lost my phone and they were trying to call me. I didn't have my phone, blah, 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 blah. So when I finally got my phone, I was talking to my mom, and she was being like kind of cold towards me. Like, she wasn't like excited to talk to me. She literally told me, don't be smiling, like, because I was stressing her out. And like, I understand that, obviously, as a mom, you don't want to feel like your child is missing in Miami by herself. But that situation really reminded me how, as a child, I didn't have the emotional security that I needed. There were always certain situations where, you know, my parents always provided for me financially, and I always had a roof over my house, a roof over my head, roof over my house too. But I was always provided for in all the ways that like you should be provided for as a kid, and so I never saw any issues with it. But now as an adult, I really see how not connecting to my parents on an emotional level, or on the emotional level that I needed, has really like reflected in the way that I've approached relationships, and not feeling like I had that safe space to really express myself and like be vulnerable with my parents and be intimate with my parents about certain things. I've kind of always felt like I had to shut myself down, or not even that, just not even really knowing how to process emotions, because my parents were always the type to like, they were both cops, so they were very strong on the outside. I don't think I've ever seen either one of my parents cry, to be honest with you. They always presented very strong, very, you know, just about business. And to an extent, I am grateful for that, because it taught me strength. It taught me how to be about my business and get things done. But like I said, constantly having to shut down my emotions, not having that safe space to really talk about how I'm feeling, things I'm going through, that definitely caused me to approach a lot of my relationships with that same vibe. And so I had an aha moment, you know, specifically with my past relationship, where I'm like, we were always very good friends. We started out as friends, and I think that because I never had true depth and true intimacy before, that's what I thought the standard was. That's how I thought it should feel like. But because of that, we never really had a deep relationship. We never really touched on certain things. And I think that he also, you know, because obviously we're attracted to each other for our more toxic traits. And so I feel like he also saw or felt that in me, like a companion, but not like a partner, if that makes sense. So I still have that to say, I was lying to myself through a lot of that relationship because it's just what I was used to. I didn't think that anything could be better. And I'm actually in a situation right now where I'm like, oh, this is what deep is. This is what deep is. And then the worst part about my current situation is that it's not even explainable. Like, it's not even something that I could really sit here and be like, yeah, so we went from this stage to this stage. Like, no, it just was like, it's just deep. It's just there. And so I feel that to say, if you are in a similar position where you feel like this is all that can be, I definitely challenge you to work on your self-worth, work on seeing yourself, understanding what it is that you deserve, because a lot of the ways that I now approach relationships, it's based on the relationship that I have with myself. And I really had to like cultivate that. It took time and effort. That's really what a lot of my pause on social media entailed over the past year. I've really been going deep, going to my past, even before my last relationship, going further beyond that and seeing like, okay, where were the wounds that I had being highlighted? Why did I enter it? And what is the lesson that I can take from it moving forward? Because that's really the only way that you can heal and truly move on from certain things. I think that sometimes we think that we're healed or we've gotten over something, but we might consciously realize like, this is not right, I should leave. But if we don't really change ourselves, you're just going to keep attracting similar situations in different ways. And that actually takes me to something else I realized. So a lot of you guys know I was signed to an agency. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna sit here and say the name, but I was signed to an agency. I signed to them in 2020. This is also something that I realized I entered into because it was reflecting back wounds to me that I didn't see at the time. And to be honest with you guys, I never look back at anything and be like, oh, I wish I didn't do that, because at the end of the day, there's always something for you to take from every experience that you have. And if you just, you know, don't hold yourself accountable for any part of it, then you never grow and you never learn. So like I said, I signed with this agency in 2020, and when I think back to that time of my life, I was in the relationships I just told you guys about, where I was pulling the weight financially, and I had just graduated college. I was trying to take care of everything, not everything, but I was trying to take care of most things by myself, having a part-time job and having inconsistent income from YouTube and Instagram and stuff. So you could say to a certain extent, I was desperate. And on top of being desperate, I didn't really know my worth. And on top of not knowing my worth, I didn't see myself. I didn't see, you know, just how good my content was back then, just how powerful I was, just the impact and the influence that I had on other people, even other influencers. Like, I didn't see it. And I feel like that's probably going to be a shock to a lot of people, because I think I do present pretty confident for the most part, but back then, girl, no. I was just working. I was just working, pushing through, trying to achieve like a certain level of success that I'm not even going to say it wasn't meant for me, but I was just pushing too hard too fast, right? I was just tunnel vision. I wasn't even really giving myself time to bask in my accomplishments and to truly see and appreciate myself for all that I had done. So in this position, also at the top of the pandemic, I kind of saw this agency as like my saving grace. I saw it as like, if I can get signed to this agency. And something else too that I realized was a mistake was I was basing my potential success with this agency off of the success that I saw from somebody else. There was another influencer that was signed to this agency before me, and I was seeing like all the brand deals she was getting and the brand trips she was doing, and I was basically stalking her for a little bit to figure out who was managing her, because at that time you know, influencer management was just starting to kind of get popping. There weren't really many options, but I knew I needed help. And so yeah, I saw this influencer and I stalked her manager, and then I'm like, I want to be signed to them. Like it kind of felt like it kind of felt like they were gonna be like my knight in shining armor, if that makes sense, because of the position that I was in, on top of not truly seeing myself. And mind you, at that time I didn't have like a manager. She was more like an agent type of thing, but that was a very ghetto situation. I'm not even gonna talk about that, but a lot of people don't know that before my previous agency, I had another like agent type of person that was helping me get brand deals, but like I said, it was ghetto. So yes, I signed with this agency thinking that's gonna change my life, and like low-key it did. And like I said, I never looked back at anything and like be like damn, I wish I didn't do that. Because at that time I was going from literally like making almost close to nothing as an influencer that had been in the space for so long to pulling in 10K, 20K, 30K months. And I think that the dynamic that I had with my previous manager worked so well because there was a certain expectation that was set. When we first connected, she told me, you know, you create content, we do the business. Like it was never, she never once said or like gave me a false promise that like I'm gonna get you 1 million brand deals and I'm gonna make you so much money. Like it was very clear, like you do the creative work, we do the business work. That way you have more time to create. Like, and at that time, that's really what I wanted, because I was working a part-time job and trying to do content and trying to manage myself. And so having that load off felt like a dream. And so at that time I was hustling, you know, I was posting often. My analytics were amazing. I had the platform. I just needed like the stepping stone for more visibility, bigger brand deals, more money. And she also really wanted to make sure that I was getting paid my worth, which I appreciated too. So boom, I went hard on creating content. I made sure my analytics stayed up, and she played her role. Like the rates that I was providing to brands before her, lowballing myself, like not even lowballing, I was charging pennies compared to what she was able to negotiate with these brands. And I was so appreciative of that, because I was kind of able to do less brand deals for more money because of the rates that she was able to get me. She was always such a good negotiator when it came to that. And not having to worry about the business side of things really did give me that time and space to start creating. And like within 7 months of being signed to them, I was at a position to leave my part-time job and create full-time. But let's take it on back to that self-worth issue that I had. And also, you know, not really knowing how to connect with people emotionally. I feel like our relationship was a lot more transactional than it was like intimate. Now don't get me wrong, we definitely talked about some deep stuff, and she played as a sounding board for me in a lot of ways. But when it came to like actual business growth and like mentorship, I don't feel like I gained in that way. But again, when I look back, that wasn't the expectation that was set. She never told me, you know, that she was gonna be my business coach. She told me, you do the content creating, I do the business. And that's exactly what she did. And that's really all I needed at that time, because I didn't really need help with figuring out, you know, what type of content to post and like a content strategy and like strategic ways to grow. Like I was doing that. What I really needed was my hands off the wheel of the business side of things. So like I said, I had that time and that peace of mind to be able to create, and she provided that to me. But a huge red flag that has now come up to bite me in the butt recently is the fact that when I did take my hands off the wheel and I gave her full control of everything, I did not have access to my emails. And when I say that out loud, I literally like what? Like that makes absolutely no sense. If you are a content creator and you have a manager or an agent, please make sure you can see your emails to some capacity. Don't do that. And I feel like at that time, again, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And so I was kind of like okay with not being involved in that way. I also, like I said, I needed to not be glued to my computer when it comes to like responding to emails and negotiations and things like that. So hearing, you know, you don't need to see your emails back then was like a dream, because it was like, oh my God, I don't have to do that anymore. Like, but the reason why I feel like that has now come to bite me in the butt it kind of restricted me from being able to develop certain relationships with brands, like as myself, because they were always just in communication with my management. On top of the fact that like not being able to see my emails meant that I don't actually know what's being said. I don't know, you know, how quickly emails are being responded. There's just certain things that they were able to get over. There were just certain things that like I don't have any proof of or any evidence of because I don't have access to that. And like I feel like that was probably a smart decision on the management side because she was probably able to get over on a lot of things. And I'm not saying that that's what she did, and I'm not even saying that like that was her intention, but at the end of the day, that was more beneficial for her than it was for me. Even if I wasn't the person responding to the emails, I just think that I need to see my emails. I need to see what's going on. I feel like that caused me to get really comfortable with not having to worry about the business side of things. And if I could go back, I would definitely have suggested that, yes, even if you're going to take care of the business things, I want to know what's going on and I want you to kind of like teach me. So that way, you know, not that I was ever anticipating leaving. Like I never in a million years thought I would leave my previous management, but at least if we were more in communication on that side of things, I feel like I would have felt better with now being in a position where I do need to be more hands-on with my business. So yeah, I don't think I ever really talked about why I left management or my previous management in the first place. I think I mentioned it in the In Her Process video, but I didn't really talk about what went down. So to be honest, the first 2 years were great. Like 2020, 2021, I had made the most money I had ever made in my life. And I think also when I look back, I really accredited way too much of that success to my management because again, I'm not seeing my emails. I don't really know what it is I'm bringing in compared to what they're actually going out and getting me. Now, granted, I do know that certain brand deals and certain connections that I got were because of relationships that she had in the industry, and I'm grateful for that. But to a certain extent, I feel like the majority of the things that were coming in were things that were just coming in because of my content and because of how hard I was working. Like I said, I think I got a little comfortable and I was a little blindsided to the fact that like I'm the one kind of running the show. I'm the one that's bringing in these brand deals and this money. And also when I was signed to them, there weren't many of us. So we really did get more hands-on one-to-one time with my manager. It was a lot more intimate. And then she decided that she wanted to expand. And we were honestly all very excited about that because, you know, bringing in more influencers to an agency just opens up the possibility for brand deals because of all of our individual influence. And then it also creates a space for community. So even though we were all comfortable with having that more one-on-one intimate relationship with our manager, we were open to her vision with expanding the agency. And so she took on a bunch of new influencers. And this is another situation where I look back and I'm like, yeah, a lot of that was me. Like, I think that a lot of the influencers that ended up applied because they saw the success that I had and just assumed that it was because of the work of my manager. Like, obviously I'm putting in work, like they see that. But I think that because of the exponential growth that I had in the time frame that I was with this agency, it looked more like my growth was coming from the agency and not from myself. When in a lot of ways, they were just handling the business deals and I was the one putting in the work. They weren't really like helping me with any part of the strategic side of things. It was more so just me focusing on the content and them focusing on the business. And I think that the relationship that we kind of like portrayed, not that it was fake, but like I think that the relationship that we showed on social media also came off as though, you know, we're working head in head, when in reality, again, it was more so just that agreement that we had in the beginning that like you work, I manage. And that allowed her to get a lot of people to have more eyes and to be more interested. The same way that I was attracted to the agency because of the success that I saw in another influencer, I think that a lot of the reason why her decision to expand was kind of easy. It was not easy, but like it was easy for people to be interested in working with her and like signing up for the agency because of the success that they saw in me. And also my other influencer friends that were in the agency at that time too, when it was smaller. So like I said, she decides to expand, and that's really when things went downhill, if I'm being honest. And at the time, I wasn't even really paying attention because I was focused on building the business that I was trying to start, the Influencer Rooftop. And in my head at that time, I was planning on leaving the agency because I wanted to focus 100% on my business, which also ended up being like not even what I was supposed to be doing, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I wasn't really paying attention to like how things were starting to slow down and how things were starting to shift because I was so focused on my business. On top of the fact that, like, remember I told you guys when I first signed to this agency, I was putting in work. I was posting every day. I was posting on YouTube twice a week. Like, I was going crazy. But since I was shifting, on top of me, you know, leaving the relationship, having to start moving and like all that stuff, my life just started shifting. And so I wasn't posting as often. And remember, at this time, I'm not seeing my emails. So, and mind you, at this time, I'm still a little bit blinded to the fact that like the reason why I was getting brand deals was because of my consistency and because I was posting, not because the agency was just getting me all these brand deals. So luckily, I still had like a lot of Sephora Squad campaigns that were guaranteed for me, but like outside of that, I wasn't getting a lot of brand deals. And I was also investing a lot of my money into my business. So the expansion of the agency ended up being a huge flop, and I have like very high opinions on it that I don't feel like I need to share just because they're my own opinions. And I don't really want to talk about it in a very like degrading way. I would more so like to share my constructive criticism. I think my previous manager set an unrealistic expectation for the people that onboarded with us. I think, like I said, the expectation with me was very clear. You work, we do business, you know? And I think that she pretty much sold these newer influencers a dream that like, yeah, we'll get you brand deals and, you know, you're going to be working a lot and, you know, we're going to change things up and, you know, we're going to help you. And that's not even, you guys know I'm into human design and astrology, and my previous manager was a manifester. Manifestors are not guides like the way projectors are. They're not really here to provide guidance and counseling and like help people over time. Manifestors are initiators. They come in, they spark a change, and then they leave. And I feel like that worked with me. Like, I think that she definitely showed up in that way for me, definitely sparked a quick change and expedited my career. But I think it only worked again because we were in alignment at that time. But I feel like by the time she was ready to expand the agency, she already had a vision for what she wanted to do outside of being a manager. And I think that she thought that the expansion of her agency was going to be like a stepping stone for her to get to that next thing. And I can relate in a lot of ways because I kind of did the same thing with the Influencer Rooftop, thinking that, you know, if I leave this city and then I start a new business, like that's going to be my thing that takes me to the next thing, when in reality, I really need to sit my ass down and heal before trying to jump into a new business venture. But like I said, we'll talk about that in a minute. Back to my manager. Yeah, she had plans that she wanted to do outside of being a manager. And I think that she was in a position to be able to hire a team and like have help. And I think that she thought that she was basically going to be able to do nothing. I think that she thought she was just going to be able to kind of like oversee everything without really having to do too much. Because I think that she thought that she had a strong foundation with what she created when it was a smaller agency. I'm basically just trying to say her intentions were not as pure as they should have been. I think that if she came into it like, I really do want to change these girls' lives, like I really do want to invest in them, I really do want to, you know, not saying that that wasn't part of her intention, but it wasn't the main intention. And so that's why I think things fell through. She wasn't in it for the right reasons. She wanted to kind of like use it as a stepping stone to for her next thing. And when you go into something with not fully pure intentions, especially when it involves other people and their lives and like how they make money, you're gonna get karma for that. Like, you're gonna suffer from that. And like, it really does suck that I'm sure if you guys know the agency I'm talking about, you see that there's like, it's non-existent at this point. And so, yeah, I think that's why it crumbled, and it really sucks that so many amazing influencers got stuck in the crossfires of that because, like I said, at one point, she was really doing her job. Like, she really showed up for me and the other influencers that were there when it was smaller and really did help us grow. But I just, again, I don't think that she really knew what she was doing. I think she just was walking by blind faith, and again, intentions weren't 100% pure. Like I just said, whenever I go into a situation, I think about my own traumas and things that, or reasons why I do certain things, or, you know, why I enter in certain situations. And I think that just like everyone else, there were certain things that she hadn't worked on herself that then ended up reflecting in her decisions, in the way that she handled things. Like, I'm a projector in human design, so I literally see everything from like an overhead view. And so, you know, being in such a close relationship with her for so long, and then seeing the influencers that were impacted, like seeing their side of things, seeing my side of things, I really feel like I have a comprehensive view on like what happened. Like I said, although it's unfortunate, I think that at the end of the day, everyone that was involved has something to take from it. And everyone, from what I can see now, you know, even though we all had to kind of go through that crumbling, everyone's thriving. I don't know about my manager, but like the influencers that were like caught in the crossfire, they're all thriving. So yes, it sucks that things happen this way. But again, if you can come out of it with some lesson learned, that's all that matters. And to be honest with you guys, the cookie started crumbling in early 2023, but my contract was a year-long contract, and it wasn't supposed to expire until March of this year. So I was actually still signed. So even after like the majority of the agency kind of crumbled, I was still signed until like November of this year. And this was before I had all these epiphanies and these aha moments about what had happened. I was thinking about leaving when my contract was supposed to end in March of 2023. But at that time, I was focused on my business. I was not even thinking about the impacts that would have on me if the business failed, because I wasn't expecting the business to fail. So I was just like kind of okay with still being signed to them and like kind of being in that limbo space. But it was kind of in that time frame where I realized like, oh, I'm not getting brand deals because I'm not posting, and my agency is not pitching me for things. And it was also in this time frame where I learned to speak up for myself more often too, because I definitely let a lot of things slide that I shouldn't have earlier on in my relationship, in my experience with this agency. And even some of the things that I did speak up on, I'm noticing now where it wasn't really taken as seriously as it should have. And so yeah, it actually ended up being kind of difficult for me to really get out of the contract, because like I said, it was a year-long contract. It was supposed to go from March to March, and because I didn't leave in March of 2023, it was supposed to continue until 2024. But it ended up getting to a point like around September that I'm like, yo, I can't do this, because not only am I not making a lot of money at this time, actually I wasn't really making anything at that time. I had just shut down my business. I was trying to figure out my next steps. I didn't know what was going on in my emails, you know what I mean? That's really when I had that epiphany that like I have gotten too comfortable with not having to be more hands-on with my influencing stuff. Like being in that space where you're trying to figure things out in life and you don't even know what's going on. And granted, I could always ask, but it was just like, wow. Like, Casey, you really need to get a grip on your own brand. Like, you've literally given your brand away and you don't know what the hell is going on. So it was in September that I ended up deciding to just say something to her and to express to her how I felt, to see if she would potentially let me out the contract, kind of knowing that like this might not happen because I'm the only influencer left for the most part, and like probably the only way that she's keeping somewhat of an income. Do you know what I mean? Even though I wasn't getting brand deals, but I was like, the chances were slim to none for her to like let me out this contract. But after like really sitting with myself, I talked to her, and it actually ended up being a very open and vulnerable conversation. I really told her how I felt. I even told her, you know, how I felt about not seeing certain things and like feeling left out in the dark. And so we had actually decided to just close out the contract at the end of the year. So originally I was supposed to leave at the end of 2023 in December, like December 31st of 2023. That just so that, you know, we could close out everything and whatever. But I still needed to push the pedal because I was not making money. I don't think it probably went over y'all heads when I said I was experiencing financial stillness in her process video. When I say stillness, I mean like bank account negative some days. I mean like eating ramen noodles 5 days a week at some points. Like, granted, I did have some support from my mom and, you know, family members and stuff, but it was really, really bad at one point. Like, and again, this is the space where I really noticed, like, yo, I don't have control over this. Like, because I couldn't even like go out and try to get my own brand deals because I'm still signed to her. And I didn't even want to get any brand deals like on my own and then have to give her a percentage of it because it was like, you know. So I actually ended up breaching the contract. I don't know if I can like legally say what I did, but I breached the contract. And I was honest with her about it. I'm like, yo, I breached the contract. And, you know, she actually, when I explained to her why I did it, she understood. But she didn't really give me like any immediate means of like action after that. Like, it was just kind of up in the air because technically if you breach that contract, there are consequences. Like, I could have gotten sued, I could have, you know, but I was literally broke, and so I had to do what I had to do to like make some money. And what ended up happening, which is crazy, and I feel like that was God working in my favor, in the contract, if you breach the contracts and there's no like action taken within 2 weeks, then you can just get out the contract without any consequences. And that's exactly what happened. It's crazy. My manager actually got really sick and didn't end up getting back to me in those 2 weeks after I breached the contract. So I think it was like the beginning of November. I gotta find the exact date now. It was literally November 20th that she ended up emailing me and saying, you know, we're just gonna go ahead and terminate the contract. So I was free. Literally, it doesn't even feel like it feels like it's been so much longer than that. But yeah, November 20th is when I became like management free officially. Now, mind you, during the whole year last year, for the most part, we weren't talking that much. Like, we weren't really working on brand deals. I didn't have any brand deals. I had like a couple long-term things, but like it wasn't anything substantial. So when things started slowing down and the contract ended, it just made sense, you know? So at that point, I'm like, all right, I'm my own manager. I really started to organize my own, you know, contacts. I started creating like Excel spreadsheets so that way I could keep track with my brand deals and like communications with brands. And like, I was really going hard with like setting myself up to like be my own manager. Like, that's what I thought I was going to be doing in 2024. And if I'm being honest, in the beginning, it was a transition because when you go from having management to now doing everything yourself, it's a lot, especially because we didn't really like have a conversation about anything. It was just like, okay, we're going to terminate the contract. Peace out. Like, there was no transition period. There was no like handing over contacts or anything like that. It was just like, all right, like into the wolves. So in the beginning, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I hadn't negotiated brand deals for myself in almost 3 years. I was literally trying to find my footing on my own. And as much as I thought that like I really wanted to manage myself, I quickly realized that I really didn't want to do that. I had actually gotten an opportunity to sign with 2 other agencies, but at this point, I obviously was being very picky because I didn't want to end up in another situation like this where things just ended up crumbling. And not to say that that would have happened with these other agencies, but I just, trusting my own intuition, I decided to not move forward with them, even though I really was not enjoying managing myself, like not even a little bit. It just didn't really feel right to sign with the 2 that had came to me. And then I actually also had another opportunity to have like an agent. She wasn't like a manager, she didn't have like an agency, but she just wanted to like independently like get me brand deals, but that didn't feel right either. So all through November and December, I was managing myself. And if I'm being honest, I was starting to get a lot of brand deals. Like, I was a little bit nervous at first because I was thinking like without having representation, I wouldn't be getting brand deals as often. even though they weren't really pitching me like that. But I had just pulled myself up out of my creative slump, barely. Like I had just started posting again consistently. And so I didn't really think that brands would want to work with me considering my analytics were trash. But honestly, right after I left, I was getting lots of brand deals back to back to back. I do think that in certain circumstances, I lowballed myself just because I was still getting used to managing myself. I also was broke. So there were certain things that I took that I didn't make as much from, I didn't make the amount that I really should have from it, but I was doing it. I was doing the thing, okay? And I was pretty much set with being my own manager. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm gonna rinse off this face mask. So yeah, at that point, you know, where I started to manage myself, I really was like, yo, I have had to get rid of so much. And that's what that takes me back to like where I realized that the decision to leave Atlanta was so much bigger than just leaving a city. Like I left the city, cool. I left the relationship, cool. Leaving my management was not even on my radar. I also lost a friend in this process. I'm not even really like in the right mental space to talk about that situation right now. So yes, at this point, you know, I really started to realize, yo, I have had to get rid of so much in my life in such a short period of time. I had to shed all these physical things, but I also had to shed so many versions of myself that got me into these positions. I feel like when I first moved to Atlanta, I tried to bypass a very important step in my evolution process where I needed to sit down. And to a certain extent, I really did sit down and reflect on certain things. Like I didn't really like try to hop into new things too prematurely without having some sort of clarity. But what I didn't realize was that I was still carrying so many old habits and I was still reflecting so many old patterns and behaviors from that version of me that got me into these situations that weren't in alignment. And I wasn't going to be able to be that same version of myself in this new timeline that I always saw for myself. It's almost like God made it very clear what needed to go in my life physically. And like, as hard as I thought that was to like leave certain things behind, the hardest part has been, you know, mourning that version of myself and trusting that this newer version of myself is going to be strong enough to sustain the changes that are coming in my life. Because imagine if I did end up like getting all these blessings that I've always seen for myself, but I was still operating in the same ways that got me in trouble or got me into these situations that weren't right for me. I would have just self-sabotaged. I would have just messed it up, and nobody wants to do that. You don't work hard to move forward in life just to be held back by old versions of yourself. And so the deeper I really like allowed that regenerative process to happen on a deep soul level, I started to see my worth. I started to feel my worth and not just say, you know, I'm confident, I'm that girl, I'm that bitch. Like truly feel and see, girl, you left, like look at what you've done. Look at everything that you have left behind. Look at the foundation you've created for yourself. Look at how you've done that on your own. That's a big thing too. Like there's a certain level of strength and unshakable peace that comes from that process of strengthening your relationship with God, spirit, source, divine, whatever you call it. There's a certain level of strength and peace that you gain in that process because no one can build that relationship for you but yourself. And it happens in those moments of solitude. And you really do need to allow yourself that time and that space to cultivate that relationship to something bigger than what you can see. The summer of 2023 was very, very difficult for me for that reason. If you're into astrology, you know that Venus was actually retrograde at that time. And Venus is the planet of love, expansion, growth, relationships, beauty. And I really kind of used that time to my advantage to go back to my inner child, see where she was hurt, see where, you know, these triggers and these wounds started, so that way I could start to see my past experiences in a new light, but also start to get back into that fresh, young version of myself that I was before the pain, before the betrayal, before being taken advantage of, you know, before all these things that I've accumulated. Like I really wanted to get back to that pure essence. And at the end of the day, the only way to really do that is to sit in solitude with yourself and speak to God, source, universe, spirit, whatever you call it. There were literally, did I even mention that I had to get rid of my car? I don't even think I mentioned that. I actually got rid of my car in early 2023 because I couldn't afford it anymore. I mean, it wasn't that I couldn't afford it, but I wasn't driving it that often. If you know me, you know I don't like driving. So I was paying all this money for a car note and I wasn't even really driving that often. On top of the fact that my car insurance was crazy high because of some accidents from my previous relationship. So yeah, I got rid of my car. There were certain points this past year where I literally I only had enough to get by. So like on top of the stress that I was going through of ending my business and then not getting brand deals and then feeling lost and then, you know, just all of that on top of that, there were just a lot of things piled up on top of each other that I really had to face. And I came out of it a completely different person. Like, I don't know if you guys can tell in the way that I speak or my energy or whatever. I don't know how it's like portraying on the outside, but there's always more work to do. There's always more space to connect deeper with myself and with spirit. But that time that I took to myself, I mean, there were literally weeks that were going by that I was not leaving my house type shit. Like, and whenever I would leave, I would probably be with my friends for like a few hours and then I would go back into my like spiritual solitude. Like, but I'm so grateful for that because like I said, I've come out of it with an unwavering strength. I pulled myself up out of that space. I faced my own dirt. Like, I faced all the things that held me back for so long and decided no more. Like, I'm not doing that. I think that a lot of people talk about the devil or like the shadow or like darkness, and you don't realize that like that's a part of you. That anxiety, those fears, you know, the triggers, the toxic traits, like all of that is a part of you too. And it's important to be able to face it and like almost befriend it and be like, hey, like I get why you're reacting this way. I get why you're doing things this way. But no, like that's where you kind of have to allow your light to outshine it. And in that space is where you cultivate that confidence and that knowing that like I can overcome any darkness that I have. I can overcome any negative traits, any, you know, anything that's holding me back from connecting to the highest version of myself. I can overcome it. I can slay it, you know? I say all that to say, 2024 for me is really about stepping deeper into the fullest authentic version of myself possible. I have let go of so much. I have sacrificed so much. I have worked through so much. I am literally ready to just like burst out of my own cocoon. Sorry if you guys can hear Frenchie snoring in the background, but I just feel like a brand new person, like I just said. I'm actually really excited to share with you guys that I have signed with a new agency and it just feels like a blessing. It feels like a reward for leaving behind the things that I held on to for too long, for, you know, facing those parts of myself that wouldn't have been able to handle this opportunity. My manager wasn't gonna let me go. Like, we were just gonna like be the only two people left from the agency and just keep working together. But I obviously deserved more than what I was getting and I wasn't accepting of it at the time. Just it got to that point where I'm like, all right, I gotta go. And once I really made that decision with confidence and clarity, here comes this new opportunity, you know? So I'm signed to an agency called OKEV. They are based in Paris. Like, who would have ever thought that my agency would be based in Paris? That is like crazy. What I love about this agency is that it is different, it is innovative, which is everything that I stand for. It's one of the reasons why I had signed to my previous agency, because I felt like they were doing things a little different than most agencies. But this one, it couldn't be a better fit for me and the place that I am in my life right now. The talent that they have is very diverse. It's all types of different people. It's not just influencers. There's professional dancers, there's artists, there's musicians. And like the way that they do things and handle things is very innovative. They have a very like innovative approach to the influencer industry. It's still kind of like a fresh agency, which is also kind of exciting because it's like I feel like I'll be able to really help the company grow. And so I'm really excited to connect with people on a more global scale. I'm excited to see where it takes me. I'm really kind of stepping out on faith with this opportunity because of having just left management and thinking that I was going to have to manage myself. But if I'm being honest, in that time where I was managing myself, I gained like so much knowledge, and I was able to really set myself up to be able to sign with a new agency, if that makes sense. I feel like I was able to kind of like get a firmer grip and a more clear vision of what I wanted for myself and my brand. Like I mentioned earlier, I think my other management served its purpose. It worked for the time that it needed to work. I do think that I stayed a little longer than what God had intended for me, but in that kind of like weird space that I was in, I was able to learn about myself. I was able to, you know, challenge myself, to speak up for myself, and to, you know, really start walking the walk and not just talking the talk. And at this point in my, you know, influencing career, I think that I am ready for deeper support. I am ready for more eyes, global reach, and just trusting my intuition with this. Trusting, you know, the communication that we had and like the way that they do things and like the knowledge that I think that they'll be able to provide for me. I think it's going to be something that's going to be really helpful and really positive for me moving forward. I feel like I need to learn French now because I'm sure I'll be having to fly overseas to meet them and stuff. They're also going to, you know, set up fashion weeks for me and events and things like that. So traveling is looking like it's going to be really big. They also have their own like creative studio over in France. So I'm excited to set up shoots and do photo shoots and just really step into who I really am and explore and expand my creativity in ways that I think that I limited myself in a lot of ways before, because I didn't see past my circumstances before. I thought that that was it for me. Like I thought that that was all that was available. And like, if you don't take anything else from this video, I want you to know that if God is pulling you towards something bigger, it's there, it's available. But the question is, are you willing to trust yourself deep enough to take that step, to start walking towards it, even if you can't see it right now? I want you to sit on that. I feel like I also have such a deeper sense of gratitude for everything, even the small things now, because there was a time where I was just making it by. And in that space, I really realized like, life is short, man. You never know. Like you could have everything one minute and then have nothing the next minute. You have to be able to stay grounded in all of life's ups and downs. And you definitely can't base your sense of self or your self-worth on anything outside of yourself. That includes physical possessions, that includes validation from other people. Like you really have to cultivate that from within by any means necessary, you know, whichever way feels correct for you. I'm never the type of person to like shove a certain belief system or like a certain way of doing things or like a way of living down someone's throat. I think that the beauty in all of us being different is that we also learn and take things in such different and unique ways. And if we can all encourage everyone to kind of find that thing that resonates with you, that sparks you up, that kind of like wakes you up, that is what's going to lead you to your highest timeline. The things that are destined for you, that are like your birthright. Like as soon as you can flip that switch and like really connect to yourself on deep levels, like I said, through any avenue that feels correct for you, that's when life starts to open up in ways that like you wouldn't have been able to do on your own, like mentally. And I think that for so long I've been running on mental agility. I've been running on what I think I need to be doing. I've been running on what I think I want, what I think I know. And it's so crazy because now whenever I catch myself saying, well, I pause and I say, F what you want. I'm literally so used to needing times, needing time frames, needing to know this, needing to know that. As soon as I catch myself being like, I want or I need, I literally turn it off and I say, what do you want? You being spirit, God, higher power, source. I want what you want from me. Like that's literally what I tell myself. I want whatever you want from me in this moment. And that might mean being your own manager for 2 months just so that a new blessing can come in. That might mean, you know, taking a break from dating so that way you can focus on yourself. That might mean, you know, it means whatever it means to you. It means whatever that voice is telling you. And if you can separate yourself from the opinions and the input and the thoughts of other people long enough to like really hear yourself, you can start making exponential change in your life. But you have to be willing to sit through the uncomfortable transitional period that's required of you to break down that older version of you, so that way you have a clean slate to start creating that life that you want, that life that was always meant for you. And even allowing space for a higher vision that you maybe didn't see for yourself to open up. Because like I said, there was a time where I thought that I was at my peak. Like I thought that that was it. I thought that I had my favorite, like the apartment that I had when I was living in Florida right before I moved, that was my favorite apartment. I loved it so much. I loved the location. I loved everything about it. But I couldn't even fully enjoy it because of my situation with my relationship, and the fact that like I was juggling so much, carrying so much on my shoulders that I didn't need to. And so putting down the baggage, putting down the weights, putting down everything that was not meant for me to carry, that was like the key for me to really start opening myself up to like a higher path for myself. And I feel like now being in Atlanta, I'm probably about to be buying a house sooner than later. You know what I mean? And if I'm not, somebody else is going to. Just saying. Point being, I'm not saying this to like force you to dream so big that like you're not enjoying where you are right now, because like I just said, enjoying every part of the process is part of the process to like getting more. It's almost like the more gratitude that you can have for your current situation, the more that you can soak up every experience and every lesson and every setback and every trial, the deeper the rewards are, the better they feel. Because it's like, look at all this, like I said earlier, look at all this stuff that I've had to go through, let go, and like now look what's coming my way. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was a long chit chat. I think that was a good one to kind of like close out the chit chat series on this channel. If you want to hear me talk more, you want to see more of me, you want to see more candid, unfiltered content from me, make sure you're following Casey's Haven and don't be over there with that BS. I'm going to link the products that I use in this video down below, even though I didn't show any of them, but just in case you want to know the nighttime glow, that'll be down below for you guys. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching me grow. A lot of you guys have literally been here since I was like 16, and I'm gonna be 27 soon. That's crazy. That's crazy. And that's something else that like has been a little difficult for me when it comes to growing up being on social media. It's like, one, I didn't realize how big of a deal that is. Like, girl, like you're literally like a superstar and you're not even 30 yet. You know what I mean? Like I sometimes downplay my own impact, and we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. I see myself, I feel myself so fully, and like I said, I'm just ready to bust out. And I just appreciate every single one of you that has been here with me through all of my transitions, whether you agree with any of them or not. At the end of the day, this isn't really about you. Like I said, don't get me wrong, I love sharing beauty content. I love, giving you guys solutions and the things that I've learned in beauty. But like, at the end of the day, this is my journey and I'm just choosing to share it. I'm choosing to listen to the calling that I have to show up on social media in whatever way makes sense for me. And I think that it just makes sense right now and where I am to separate the two. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Getting out the kinks over the past few months has been kind of stressful, but it's also been really fun for me to tap back into my creativity. Like I said, I feel like I'm kind of getting that like childlike feel and essence and excitement for life and creating again. I remember when I first started on YouTube way back when, and it was just exciting. I was just trying everything, sharing everything, having the time of my life. And then life happened and kind of like blinded me to how pure and innocent that was. And I want to revive that version of myself, despite the things that I've gone through, the things I've experienced. Not even despite of, it's more so like with everything that I've gained from it, and showcasing how pushing through that can definitely create a whole new version of yourself. So yeah, 2024 is just the year of more me, more Casey, bigger, brighter, and fresher than ever. Again, make sure you subscribe to everything, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. On a rough, I went the wrong way. This nigga Jay.